Winning season has officially returned, and with the NCAA back in action, plenty of opportunities to win at MyBookie. Whether you're a seasoned veteran or a first-timer, MyBookie gets you the most for your money with a double deposit bonus up to $1,000. To claim your bonus, sign up and use promo code TRANSFER on your first deposit, and you'll instantly double your money with MyBookie. It's simple. $100 deposit puts $200 in your account. You can use your funds to bet on as many individual games, contests, or props as you want. Bet on team win totals, predict the national championship winner, or use the MyBookie prop builder to give yourself the edge you need to secure the bag. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie.
Hello, welcome back to another review podcast with the Transfer Portal CFB presented by NoContextCFB, and there are no introductions here. We're getting right into it. Look, man, a lot happened week 2, and I'll tell you straight up, after us college football fans have asked for years and murmured for years, the whispers, is this going to be like 2007? Could we see a return like 2007? Is it fair to say that after what we've seen through 2 weeks, there are serious vibes to the 2007 season? Because I need to tell you right now, we have already had 15 what we could classify as true upsets, meaning the lower ranked team beat a higher ranked team, or a top 5 team lost to an unranked team. In 2007, the lower ranked team beat a higher ranked team 59 times. Top 5 teams lost to an unranked team 13 times. Of course, you have the curse of number 2 and everything. This year, it's happened 15 times with what we could declare an upset. Old Dominion over Virginia Tech, William and Mary over Charlotte, Florida over number 7 Utah, Delaware over Navy, App State over number 6 Texas A&M, Marshall over number 8 Notre Dame, BYU over number 9 Baylor, Kentucky over number 12 Florida, Tennessee over number 17 Pitt, Wazoo beating number 19 Wisconsin, Texas Tech beating number 25 Houston, Incarnate Word over Nevada, Holy Cross over Buffalo, Weber State over Utah State, Georgia Southern over Nebraska. That's 15 times in 2 weeks. 2007, that only happened 9 times. So of course, it was kickstarted by App State, Michigan. But 15 times to 2007's 9 is pretty insane and something to really think about if it is real that there might be 2007 2.0 in the 15th year of that 2007 season.
I know, I'm here for it if that's true. By the way, that was an impressive read without like taking a breath.
I'm very passionate.
Seriously, shout out to you, Liam. The stamina in your voice is incredible.
I am very passionate about 2007 2.0, man. Like straight up. Like, and if you really look at things, if you think about, 3 weeks to a month ago, when we saw that first top 25 poll, what was running through all our heads? Yeah, the top 4 or 5 teams are elite. Like, they're all really good. But every other team, starting from like maybe that 5th, 6th spot on, it felt really weird. All those teams from like 5, 6 to 25 felt on the same level. They felt even. It didn't feel like there was a true Goliath, a true like elite team out there. And now with all the carnage that has already been created, we're starting to see that those thoughts were right to have. And that it's such an even playing field in this sport today. And I just want to hear y'all's thoughts on if this is something that
nobody is safe. Nobody is safe. Can't take a week off.
Nobody is safe.
One interesting factor I think about is, and I've been trying to figure out how to make this into a advantage for myself when using my favorite sportsbook apps on my phones, but the fact that you have the 2 different big scale factors of the transfer portal and the COVID era super seniors. So you have some of these smaller programs where you have guys, well, and it's at large programs too, but teams that have, maybe they have a guy back for a 5th year, even a 6th year. Look at Missouri, Jack Abraham, the backup there, 7th year in college football. And so you have some of these rosters that have been together for a number of years. And that's certainly true in some of the Sun Belt teams, and we saw them, score some trophies yesterday. But then you have other schools like Ole Miss or USC, who are going into the portal heavily. And so they've got these almost like free agent type squads. So, they're certainly the jury's out on if that's going to work and work everywhere. It looks good at USC right now. It certainly looks good there. But it kind of reminds me when you get into March Madness and you have a team of a couple one and done blue chippers versus a team of like 24-year-olds that have been playing basketball, 7 days a week for the last 5 years together. So I don't know, maybe we're going to see some of that where some of these older rosters with a lot of chemistry are taking down, more talented teams.
Yeah, and when you talk about something like that, I think that it really does come down to the coaching as well, because you really have to have a really great motivator and somebody that can really fire up a team. I mean, you can't beat an elite team without good coaching, and that goes for any team at any level of college football. And I think that this weekend especially, we found out that these group of 5 teams can go out there with great coaching, might not even necessarily have the most talented roster in the world, and can still shake up the entire college football world.
Exciting. That's for sure.
It's going to be a really exciting season, man.
It makes me nervous though, because my teams aren't very consistent. So
yeah, like I'm just gonna predict it now if I haven't already in the past. This year is going to be crazy with the upsets. And as I said, by the terms of an upset, what we truly can't classify an upset, it's happened 15 times in 2 weeks.
You think it's going to be crazy enough that we see a 3-loss team in the playoff?
No, I don't think it's going to get to that point. I don't think anything could actually get to that point of 2007 where we got, hey man, Kansas 2-0. Maybe they get to that 2007 life that they had. And there's some teams that are 2-0 that you wouldn't think are. Rutgers and Duke come to mind, but I just think it's going to be such a crazy year because, like Dan pointed to, the transfer portal and these elite coaches at Group of 5 schools and everything, and just all around the country, I just don't think that there's that big of a drop-off from what people perceive as the mid-tier to that middle of the top 25 and like the 15 spots and everything. I just think the playing level is too even, and the super senior things and everything, like as we talked about with Georgia State, every player on their starting every player that occupies a starting spot at Georgia State is a redshirt senior. It seems like this is just the case for so many programs. Marshall, obviously, look at the experience that they have on both sides of the ball. They have an elite head coach in Charles Huff who has never gotten the respect that he deserves. 39-year-old up and comer in this sport. Was on Saban's staff for a few years too. And they had an elite defense with 2 NFL corners. And they're not the only, less than thought of program that's got dudes like that on defense, that has a bright, young, shining coach, that has capable players on offense. Like, I don't know. We'll get to the next topic and we'll let Jake vent, but I just truly believe that it's going to be a year of carnage and chaos and cannibalism in this sport. It's going to be amazing. Maybe it doesn't really affect the top dogs, but it's going to shake up the top 25 each and every week.
You know who else really wishes it was 2007? Is West Virginia. They'd really like that.
I'm sure we'll talk about them eventually tonight, because golly, are they not in a good spot to say the least.
No, I mean, I didn't think West Virginia was going to be necessarily good this year, but I also didn't expect them to be at this level of bad, especially because, JT Daniels is a pretty good quarterback. I didn't expect him to, come in and this be the result. So definitely a surprising start for them.
Well, we'll move on to your spotlight here, Jake.
All right. Well, first of all, because I am going to talk a lot about A&M over the next few minutes. First of all, I just want to congratulate everybody in Boone, North Carolina, and all of Mountaineer Nation, because Appalachian State, they came into College Station and they beat us, and they deserved it. Cam Peoples is legit. If you haven't watched the kid play, if you haven't seen the highlights from yesterday, just watch how he bounces off tackles, how he can, really just be really shifty on his feet. And ran right through A&M's defense at all levels. And Chase Bryce, I don't think he got enough credit for yesterday. He played outstanding. We weren't able to stop him. Congrats to Appalachian State. Your fans were great. But now I need to talk a little bit about my Aggies. And leaving Kyle Field yesterday, there was nothing more embarrassing, nothing more demoralizing than hearing a group of fans explode with joy. They've come into your stadium. They've traveled across the country. You paid them $1.5 million to do it, despite their track record of doing this. And you hear it, and it just makes your heart sink. And for me yesterday, of my 21 years on this earth, that was the most pathetic performance, even including the 77-0 massacre of Texas A&M by Oklahoma when I was just a wee child. That was somehow worse what took place yesterday. And I spent all day today trying to think of one thing positive that I could think about and that I could say that would help me get through this period of pain that I'm currently going through. And that is that our stadium was not sold out, and that there were 10,000 seats empty, and those were 10,000 people that did not have to witness what happened yesterday.
Oh, gosh. I didn't know you were going to go there.
That was terrible. And I don't even know where to start. And actually, I know where to start. And it is with our head coach, the $100 million man, Jimbo Fisher. And I have not been hard enough on Jimbo in the past for A&M's shortcomings. And this time I am done with that. I'm not out on Jimbo. I need to put that forward first. I'm not out on him. And I think that it is ridiculous at this point to say that, this is who he is, because, and I'll get into this, but the reality of it is that this A&M team is extremely young, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And I think that, especially as it went down into the game yesterday, I think that we really saw that A&M was just tired. I mean, the time of possession was ridiculous what App State was able to do to A&M. We couldn't get our defense off the field. And, and it really does go back to coaching, because Jimbo Fisher is the guy that calls the offense. For whatever reason, he doesn't give it up to his guy in the press box, Daryl Dickey, who can see the defense. He sees it from above every single play. He's literally got the view of an all-22 in his vision. But Jimbo insists on calling the plays. And I think the most ridiculous play call I saw from Jimbo Fisher yesterday, and this is part of the reason why A&M couldn't get their defense off the field, is because we were just wasting drives. I mean, I remember it was pretty late in the game, and Jimbo called a pass out into the flat on a 3rd and 1 when your best player, Devon Achane, isn't getting carries. I mean, that is ridiculous. He was the only player that showed a semblance of life on the A&M offense yesterday, a semblance. And from the second quarter on, after Devon Achane scored the 26-yard touchdown, Devon Achane did not touch the ball for another 15 minutes of game time. From the 11-minute mark of the second quarter until, I believe, 10 minutes left in the third. That is ridiculous. And that is something that Jimbo Fisher has to be accountable for. And I like that in the post game yesterday that he said that it falls on him, but it has to. And that is the bare minimum, that as a head coach, that you have to accept the responsibility of your team when it loses in such an embarrassing fashion. You have to accept responsibility. But what I don't want to see happen is that A&M comes out and looks like the same flat team. And if he wants to really make adjustments, he should have put in Max Johnson in the fourth quarter, because it was pretty clear that Haynes King wasn't going to put the spark in the offense that the Ags needed. And it was ridiculous to me to see in the postgame. He was like, well, we didn't get the ball, so how do you expect me to change quarterbacks? You had several drives in the fourth quarter where you had an opportunity to change the quarterback and to get something going. I don't care that, he might not be 100% with every single part of your offensive scheme. That seems to be way too complicated for every single quarterback that is coming to A&M, except for Kellen Mond, who A&M fans are still, for some reason, way too hard on, because he's by far the best quarterback that we've seen under Jimbo Fisher. I don't think it's particularly close either. It's ridiculous to me. And, I do not know what the solution is going to be, because I don't think that it's just one thing. The offensive line looks terrible. We were not able to run the ball between the tackles whatsoever. And the only times when we were able to get the ball between the tackles, we would, something stupid would happen. It would get called back on a holding play or something like that. And I'm not even going to get into the referees because this is, A&M deserved to lose the game. I'm not going to get into any poor calls or anything like that. And I think it went both ways in some ways. There was a pass interference call that was called on us or on them on Appalachian State that I very much disagreed with. But, the buck has to stop with Jimbo Fisher. He didn't make the necessary adjustments. There were a lot of issues with A&M's loss. And I expect better. The 12th man deserves better. All of us, we were yelling until the very end. I mean, we really, really go out there every week. A lot of people invest a lot into the program. A&M has such enthusiastic fans all around the world. And for what happened yesterday, that is a travesty. And it is disrespectful to every single one of us who invests time and money into these programs to see these kind of results on the field in the 5th year under Jimbo Fisher. And I'm gonna say it right now. If this season ends pretty badly, next season, if there is not a significant improvement, and I'm talking Year 6 / college football playoff improvement, Jimbo Fisher has to go. I do not care how big the buyout is. The boosters here will be more than happy to pay it because there's one thing and one thing only that people want for Texas A&M football here at this university and everybody that gives into it, and that is to win a national championship. And this program, as of right now, is nowhere near that. And with the talent that we have on the field, that is inexcusable because it shouldn't have even been arguable who had the talent advantage going into yesterday's game. A&M is 56 4 and 5 stars. Appalachian State, 1 single 4-star. And that goes to show you that the real difference in these kind of games is the coaching. And when your coaching doesn't come out and make the necessary adjustments, you will lose and you will get caught flat-footed. And that is exactly what happened. And I am not looking forward to this game against Miami this weekend just because of what happened yesterday. Absolute travesty. So I'll let y'all, sort of put in your thoughts.
I mean, adjustments is one thing, and that's certainly a crucial element of game day coaching, but the scheme, I mean, this is a Paleolithic scheme. This looks like 1980s NFL football. Like, you have these incredibly talented players at so many positions on the field on offense, and the game has evolved so far. And Dabo is also on the hook for this, but this Stone Age football is not maximum. They App State doubled up plays. Was it 82 to 39 or something like that? You can't run 39 plays in a modern.
No,
game.
I believe the time of possession was about 40 minutes to 20.
20, yeah.
So that is inexcusable.
Slowing the game down as a favorite does the underdog a favor. I don't understand that.
Yeah. And there's no reason that you're in this tough game with a really good App State program. And as you said, Devin Achane has he had 10 rushes and 1 catch. He had 11 touches from scrimmage in the game that you lost by 3, 10 for 66 and a touchdown. That touchdown run was remarkable. How is your best player on offense, your best skill player, not getting the ball more? You could point to Evan Stewart, who had a very solid game receiving wise. I would have found more ways to get him the ball more. I'm surprised Chris Marshall wasn't getting the ball at all. There are a lot of things that happen. And as Dan said, it's what happens when you're running an offense straight out of 1853. It's what happens when you're getting doubled, tripled, quadrupled up in time of possession. Like, if you watch that game on TV, name one play other than Devin Achane's touchdown run that you could say, oh yeah, I remember A&M having the ball for. There's not one. There's not one play that you could have remembered A&M actually having the ball. It was all App State just crushing it on the offense side.
I mean, Achane literally was our production. That was it. He had the kick return touchdown, which put all the life back into Kyle Field. And it really felt like, you know what, this team, we're going to pull away with this. I genuinely thought that at that moment that was going to be the turning point in the game. And I think that everybody watching probably thought about the same, that would put a spark into something, but it didn't. And it's inexcusable that A&M did not adjust a single thing and did not attempt to give their best players the ball. I mean, that is ridiculous.
It's like clear as day too, that they just did not take in for account what UNC did against App State. They didn't do any sort of film study to say, okay, UNC scored 60 plus on these guys on the road week 1. what did they do that we could maybe do to thrive on offense in some way? There was not one note that they took from that. And to me, that's shocking because App State's defense is not as bad as it looked, giving up 60 plus at home to UNC. It's not that bad. That's never been their calling card. They play good defense. They played good enough defense to win this game. I know it was more so about A&M's lack thereof on the offensive side, but how you go into that game and not have certain things schemed up that UNC did to beat App State just kind of shocks me. And then I don't know, like
I mean, App State had weaknesses, and one thing that I do not understand is why A&M did not utilize the tight end more. I mean, pretty early on in the game, they got a good throw out to Donovan Green, and that was, I believe, Donovan Green's only catch of the game. That was his only involvement in the game. I wanted to see more Donovan Green.
He had 1 for 12.
Yeah, that he got one catch for a first down at the very beginning of the game, and that was it. That was all that we saw from them, and it was just it. A&M could not find any sort of footing, and I don't know why they wouldn't stick with a couple of things that worked. You could have ran the ball to the outside more because in between the tackles, it was not working at all, and that was a theme that we saw against Sam Houston as well. You know, the fact is that the offensive line is not really good right now. I understand that Bryce Foster unfortunately has mono, so that's a pretty big loss. And when you're playing Matthew Wyckoff, who has had some issues snapping the ball, and A&M definitely had to combat that yesterday, but still, you know, a couple high snaps, so what? You should be able to compensate for that against a team like App State. And it seems like Jimbo Fisher and the Aggies didn't take it as seriously as they should have. It doesn't look like the team did enough preparation. As you were going back to, it doesn't look like there was much film watching because we didn't do the things that North Carolina did to exploit their defense. We have more than enough talent to do that, way more than enough to do it, but we didn't. And I think that, sorry, go ahead.
I mean, it's your team. Go on.
No, I honestly, like, I don't even have many more words to say.
Okay.
I'm just dumbfounded.
I was going to say, can you imagine this team with that defensive talent they have and how sturdy they are on that side of the ball with the playmakers that they have on the outside that are being underutilized? Imagine with like an offensive coordinator. You're talking about UNC earlier, like a Phil Longo or a Jeff Lebby type offense, or you know, something out of the Baylor tree. Can you imagine that kind of team? That would be a playoff team.
I completely agree. I think that at first, when Jimbo came to A&M, people were talking about how this scheme could really work. But over the last few years, we've seen these offenses really evolve. And, you know, we're not seeing, because people were talking about how Jimbo was going to have, you know, guys go under center and stuff like that. Like that doesn't happen anymore in college football. Nobody runs that offense anymore. And to be fair, I haven't seen A&M really run it this year. So, but still, I mean, I'm just done with not airing the ball out more and utilizing these special talents like Evan Stewart, who is a 5-star for a reason. I mean, he had a great game against Sam Houston State, and it looked like he might have been able to put up the same numbers against Appalachian State, but it didn't happen. It did not happen.
Let me ask you this, because people kind of said the same thing last year for Texas. Like, why is our offense so pedestrian? Why aren't we airing the ball out? Do you think it's because Jimbo doesn't trust the quarterback? Because I think that might have a lot to do with it.
It honestly could have a lot to do with it. And, you know, what bothers me is that Jimbo is so conservative when it comes to making changes at certain positions. And he had an opportunity to get in there with Max Johnson, who is a guy with a lot of experience, who put up pretty good numbers on a really bad LSU team with a terrible offensive line last year. Terrible. And he was still able to put up productive numbers. And it doesn't look like Jimbo really trusts him, because he only gives Haynes King the opportunity to throw the ball long, which I don't think he should do, because Haynes King cannot throw the ball deeper than 15 yards. And even that is questionable. But it doesn't look like the play calling is just so conservative. It's all these throws out into the flat and, you know, like little screens or read options and stuff like that. Like, and there was even one yesterday where it was just a complete miscommunication between Devon Achane and Haynes King on a read option. Haynes held on to it for like 3 seconds, just standing there like they were arguing over who gets the ball. And Haynes just kind of went down. I mean, that can't be happening. If this is happening against Appalachian State, what's going to be happening against Miami on Saturday? You know, I mean, it's
that when I watched them, I watched them versus Sam Houston, and I was able to watch the game yesterday. That's just what it looked like. It looked like he just doesn't trust Haynes King to stretch the field. So
Which
you're gonna get these boring.
Which, if that's the
Playoffs.
case, you're the head coach at Texas A&M. If you don't trust your quarterback, make a change. Like, it's that simple. You can't be a coward. Like,
No,
you
I
gotta figure
agree.
it out.
I
No, I
agree.
know
He
you
thought,
agree.
He thought he thought he could get away with it. You know, maybe
And-
we can
and we know from
squeeze this game out.
we know from previous years and this war in general, there's nothing that
Doesn't
you
work.
think, anything you think you're gonna get away with, it can't happen. I'll tell you what, App State got away with something though. There's no reason they should be weighing at Texas A&M when Chase Bryce, their starting quarterback, is 15 of 30. That should not, they should not be coming out with a win in that game. And all credit to the People's Heisman, Cam Peoples. 19 for 112, the disgusting stiff arm to ice that game away. That kid is electric. He has been through so much. Just to shine some light on some of the App State guys real quick, since we've been on the A&M side. Cam Peoples has undergone surgery on both legs, I believe, over the last 2-3 years. Like, he's been through it. For him to look this good, a guy that no longer carries that true RB1 label, is splitting reps with Nate Noel and Dietrich Harrington, now Amani Marshall, as App State has always done, running back by committee. For him to look this good after these injuries is such a good sign, and I'm very thrilled for him. But again, man, like, it's not the only bad thing that happened to A&M this week, because we could talk about Sam Houston State too. We could talk about how they scored 3 points in a 10-3 loss to Northern Arizona. Like, that's another awful sign for A&M.
Yeah, I mean, my concern against Sam Houston was not with the defense at all. Defense played outstanding against Sam Houston State for the most part, but it's this week, and I don't even and the defense wasn't even really the problem. I would say that giving up 17 points while being on the field for 40 minutes is something that you can be like, all right, that's that's something good, because I don't know if you guys like really paid attention towards the end of the game, but our guys were dropping like flies with cramps. I mean, it was bad. Those guys were out there on the field forever. And I give my hats off to the A&M defense. Y'all deserve better. I actually got a chance to talk to A&M punter Nick Constantino after the game yesterday on my walk home from the game. And, he was just as disappointed as anybody on the team. I mean, he played great. He had a couple of really nice punts, that were able to pin Appalachian State, but he was just as disappointed as anybody else on the team, and rightfully so. He was out there way more than he should have. And there has got to be some sort of radical change. And, I'm not the one that makes these decisions, and rightfully so, but if it comes down to it, Connor Wigman, come on out. Seriously, something has to change. Connor Wigman has an incredible arm. He might be the best raw talent in the 2022 class. It's either him or Klubnik, depending on which side, you really look at. But for Miami this Saturday, man, you got to make a change at quarterback.
Yeah.
The sample size,
That's where it starts.
The sample size is big enough at this point. Some spark needs to be put into this offense, because it doesn't look like any of the guys have any confidence. And that is a big deal, because if your offense doesn't believe in itself, that's going to reverberate throughout the entire team.
Yep. And
So
we'll see how A&M rebounds everything in the future. We'll see how they play against the Canes. And again, before we get to Adam here for his thing, hats off to App State. Heck of a win, heck of a game played. And it's just crazy to think that this wasn't even one of their better efforts against a Power 5. Okay, not effort. It was a great effort. It wasn't one of their better all-around games in previous years against a Power 5 team. They've played some much better games, like against Miami last year, and haven't come away with the win. So it's really good to see App State, not actually play their AA plus game and come away with a win like this. So credit to App State. And Adam, the floor is yours, man.
I mean, for my Longhorns, we played good.
What a difference.
All I'm gonna say is there was a lot of talk about Quinn Ewers and how he was in a battle with Hudson Card. You see the difference. It's night and day when you have a quarterback that your coach trusts and he can throw the football. I mean, he had 140 yards in 10 minutes of game time before we got hurt. I'm happy with it. I don't believe in moral victories, but I'm not mad. We did the best we could. shout out to Hudson Card. He got a lot of hate because, let's be honest, he was bad last year. But I mean, he came in, did fine. You know, he's not gonna win you the game, but he's not gonna lose it. He did fine. He was hurt. He might not play next week, so shout out to Malik Murphy. I guess we'll see how that goes against UTSA, but I'm happy with it. I felt disrespected. That minus 21.5 spread was disrespectful. There was no way we were going to get blown out like that.
Did you cash in?
I did easily right away. I mean, if you just look at Alabama last year, they were in a dogfight with Florida, triple overtime to Auburn, Texas. Without a quarterback, we were able to score points against Baylor, Oklahoma State, OU. That was easy money for me. So, but you know, Q Newers, he's out for 4 weeks. We'll see what happens when he gets back. Hopefully, we can hold it down, and we'll see what happens against OU.
It's just like it's just crazy. Again, as I said before we started recording, it's just wild to think that we should be talking about Texas win right now if Quinn never got hurt.
I truly believe that we win that game easily.
Mm-hmm. And then there was the very catchable touchdown for Xavier Worthy too. They didn't come.
The missed field goal,
so many,
almost a safety, almost a sack. I mean, also, I want to give a shout out to. Well, I'll save it. Never mind. I'll save it. I'll save it for later.
Yeah,
I'll save it for later.
I want to, first of all, Adam, I know that we have both had our disagreements in the past, and I want to say from an Aggie to a Longhorn, y'all put up one hell of an effort yesterday, and I hope 3 is okay because, as soon as he went down like that, and I truthfully don't believe it was a dirty hit. I don't believe at all that was the intention there. It's a bang bang sport, and things like that happen. But I hope for the best for 3 coming back. Being a Cowboys fan, I've seen Tony Romo go down like that one too many times over the years. And as soon as he went down like that, I knew it was probably the collarbone, clavicle, something up in the shoulder. Knew something wasn't going to be right. So, I hope he can come back and come back slinging because it's never good to see a quarterback get hit like that, especially somebody who's having a great game. It's very hard to beat Alabama with a backup quarterback. We just barely did it last year, and it's a very, very difficult thing to do. So hats off to the Texas Longhorns for the effort that y'all put up yesterday.
Yeah, I do agree. I don't think it was a dirty hit either. It was an illegal hit. Like, you can't slam a quarterback, especially when he's in the air. I mean,
right.
Nothing's going to happen from that, but I don't think it was dirty. It's fine.
And big ups to the Texas defense because they balled out.
Yes.
And I mean, they look soft in the spring game. They were soft all last year. I mean, talk about a difference. Like, how good did they look against Alabama's offense on Saturday? Bryce Young, Jahmyr Gibbs, the receivers they've got. And I've got some takes in the Alabama receiver room, but I'll let them be for another week. Texas balled out against this great defense.
Let those takes fly because I probably have pretty similar opinions to you about that Alabama receiver room this year. So let it fly.
Ja'Cory Brooks shouldn't be getting 3 catches in that game. He needs way more catches in that game. Shaz Preston, true freshman, needs to be on the field and playing. If Aaron Anderson was healthy, he's unfortunately in a boot and everything, but if Aaron Anderson was healthy and he wasn't getting reps on this receiver room as a true freshman, it would be absolutely blasphemous. Once that kid is out of his boot and ready to play football, he needs to be on the field so much. There is not a receiver that they have that brings the juice like him. Jahmyr Gibbs needs to get the ball more. I know we're talking about receiving room, but Jahmyr only had 9 carries, 22 yards. Needs to just get this guy more touches. 9 catches, 74 yards. He's not someone that you could just, and at one point, win, man, where your offense was struggling. Like, get your playmakers the ball. This guy doesn't run. He glides. The guy is absolutely electric in open space and everything. We talked up this transfer all offseason. Like, Georgia Tech running back is going to Alabama, and we all know, those that knew college football were like, this is significant. Like, this is a massive upgrade. This is something special for Alabama, and I don't feel like they're they're utilizing that weapon like they need to. And yeah, like I said, the receiver, Ja'Cory Brooks, Shaz Preston, get them more looks. It's simple.
I mean, I even thought that, Steve Sarkisian outcoached Nick Saban yesterday, and Nick Saban rarely gets outcoached. I mean, now about the quote that Sark had after the game, don't know what he was talking about there. When you run out of time, you do lose. So you lost the game, but I digress. Nick Saban got outcoached, and that doesn't happen very often. And rarely does Nick Saban, lose a game. And I don't think he's ever won a game where he's been outcoached. So, Alabama, I think, might have just gotten lucky there. And there were some questionable calls along the way, too.
It's safe to say that Alabama never wants to play a non-conference road game again.
No.
We don't want to play Alabama again because they tend to hurt our quarterbacks. So,
well, bad news.
Unless it's in Natty.
What'd you say, Dan?
I said, well, bad news. You're about to have to.
We'll see him again next year. I do want to shout out to the Alabama fans. They were all amazing. They did the horns down a lot. It got kind of cringy when the game's over. Game's been over for 12 hours and they're still dancing like this. When the horns down, it's a little cringy, but they were all nice, all good people. So shout out to them. I have nothing bad to say.
I don't think you realize you just inadvertently threw a horns down yourself. So.
I did, but everybody know. They know.
15-yard penalty on that. That's crazy.
No, seriously though. I also shout out to Nick Saban though for actually making his players not do that. And I know that everybody heard it on the hot mic after the game.
Right.
Yeah. The players shouldn't be doing it during the game. I mean, it's pretty widely known by now that you're gonna get penalized. Whether it's stupid or not, that's another debate. But it's a penalty, so don't do it.
Yeah, and again, my biggest takeaway from this is Texas should have won, and how good would Texas be if Quinn was healthy all year? And it's going to be a what if for not a really long time, but in my brain and Adam's brain and Texas fans' brains, other college football fans' brains, it might be a what if for a really long time. If this Texas team with this improved defense, the talent that they have on offense, had a healthy Quinn Ewers for a full season, what could they have done? It's tough, man. And I know that we've talked about it and kind of just brought it up for months on end in the off season. We talked about what if Texas were to actually beat Alabama? What if Texas were to just even compete with Alabama and then drop the ball the next week against UTSA? It might unfortunately actually happen with the quarterback situation.
Yeah. I mean, if Hudson Card plays, I think we'll be fine. He can go in and win a game. He's been there before. He knows. If not, then we bring in either Charles Wright or Malik Murphy, Frank Harris, and them. That stadium's going to be really loud. UTSA, they've had this game circled all off season, and it's hard when you're coming off an emotional game to go and play a lesser team. Like we saw that with Houston. They come out of an emotional game with UTSA. They scored 3 points in the first half against Texas Tech. We'll see if the guys can come back, and they're young. They gotta just move on, because if they don't, they will lose to UTSA.
And I think that the key for Texas is really going forward, because we saw it last year after the Red River game, and I think Adam will definitely agree with this, is that the defense just showed a lack of effort after that game. I mean, even during that game, it was an utter collapse, and that kind of set the theme for the rest of the season, because Texas was firing on all cylinders up until that point, and it looked like that Texas team was truly going to be good. So you need to see the consistency. And that's going to be the thing going forward with Texas that you're going to need to see is, can the defense really play like that all year? Because when you get Quinn Ewers back, that you're going to be able to fire the ball down the field. I mean, that's a fact. And we saw it yesterday against Alabama, and Alabama's defenses are always great. So, you're just going to be able to need to see the consistency from the defense if you really want to see that growth in the Texas team.
I also just want to say, how good was Texas in the trenches too? How good is Kelvin Banks going to be? My goodness, man.
Yes.
That ain't fair.
How they were able to, I mean, Quinn Ewers and Hudson, they kept them relatively healthy just to slow down Will Anderson and Dallas Turner. Shout out to the crowd was loud. Will Anderson said he couldn't even hear That's why, he's jumping off sides. I think he had like 4 offsides.
Yeah, talk
penalties.
about that too from
Like-
Will Anderson. Said the loudest environment he's ever played in is at Texas.
Ah,
Like that. And
I
maybe
mean-
he's making excuses for himself, but that's a
I'm sure it was loud, but like I said, that was all the talk was Will Anderson. Will Anderson, they did a good job scheming on him. He had that one big sack, which might have won them the game. Bijan kind of missed the block right there. Should have chipped him or something, but it's Alabama, what can you do? You got to play perfect.
heck of an effort from the Longhorns, and we'll move on. And I've got to ask each and every one of you, what does the number 15 million mean to you? Because it doesn't mean anything to Nebraska. It does not. They buy out Scott Frost today with that $15 million buyout, as opposed to waiting till October 1st when it becomes $7.5 million. This needed to happen. They bit the bullet. They said, who cares about the money? We just dropped the buy game to Georgia Southern, the Scott Frost era. Nothing's ever changed. We kind of told them that weeks ago after Northwestern, like, this is what you get. You're getting 1 possession games and you're probably going to lose them. It happened again. Scott Frost is out. I mean, what do we make of this, man? Like, this is, it's long overdue. Long overdue.
yeah.
I love that they pulled the trigger this early. I mean, yeah, it's $7.5 million more, but you're a Big Ten school. Money isn't real, right? So there's one of two ways an interim coach situation can go. You can have like Clay Helton last year, where the team just kind of, I don't want to say quit. That's a tough word, but kind of mails it in a little bit. But then you have a lot of those situations with an interim where there's a dead cat bounce and a rally. And this season is still salvageable. You're playing one of the worst divisions in the Power Five, and a bowl game it's still in reach in a division like that. So good for them for sticking up, for the players and giving the players and the athletes in the program a shot.
Yeah. The only thing I really have to say about this, because, I think that everybody's kind of like spoken what we already know, but how bad do you have to be at your job for you to get booted out, get paid double the money to not work, and that number that is double is $15 million? How bad do you have to be at your job for that to be the case? I mean, you know what? Good for you, Scott. Good for you, Scott Frost. I hope you end up on a beach somewhere as far away from Lincoln, Nebraska as you can possibly get, because you're not going to be welcome there again. That's for sure.
Do we think Scott Frost was quiet quitting?
Yeah, I just don't think it just wasn't a good fit there. I mean,
It's just wild to think about. But Jake, you raised the question, how bad do you have to be for that to happen? You have to lose to Georgia Southern, who's implemented a new offense, who hasn't thrown the ball downfield in how many years? They just learned how to throw the ball 5 yards down the field, guys. Like the triple. This is a team that just converted away from the option. You let them score 45 on you on your home turf. It's embarrassing. I feel bad for Scott too, because of all the hate he gets and everything. Which, like, at the end of the day, it's kind of deserved. Like, with what you have managed to destroy.
Quite the opposite.
was it really destroyed though?
It's not. It's the, how do you say it? The ineptitude's insane. It's just hard to fathom how completely awful you could be in the same circumstance from week to week to week to week to week to week to week. Flip the calendar to the next year, to week to week to week to week. Like, it's just this never-ending cycle that has happened with them. And it just doesn't make sense. And I don't think, I'll bold take here, I don't think he's going to be an offensive analyst at Alabama. I don't even think Saban's going to go for that. I'll tell you that straight up. I don't know how Frost is going to get his career back on its foot and everything, but I mean, talk about a difference in a career path, because it was looking so good. It was looking like one of the bright young minds in the sport and everything. And then he goes to his beloved Cornhusker Nation and was able to implode every single week. This was the one game Nebraska's lost at Memorial Stadium, giving up, scoring 40 points or whatever was that? Like, let me double check that fact. Sorry. Nebraska falls to 214-1 when scoring 35 or more points at Memorial Stadium.
Wow.
Two?
You know, and I know that all the talk is about the buyout and stuff like that, but I'm almost surprised that this didn't happen 2 weeks ago and that they didn't just leave him in Ireland. I mean,
exactly.
I mean, after a game like that, that is when you have the chance to really reset the trajectory of your season, is after week 0. You're going into week 3 next week, and now the whole thing is torn apart, and you don't even know who's going for it. By the way, shout out to Nebraska, first black head coach out of any of their athletic programs, though. So shout out to Nebraska there.
Shout out for waiting until 2022.
I hope.
Shout out to Mickey Joseph, but not
Yes,
shout out to Nebraska.
That's,
you know what I mean.
No, we know it's you, but
yeah.
Nebraska, like, that is just terrible to even think about. Like, how is taking this long is it's truly disgusting. It doesn't make any sense. I hope Mickey Joseph goes out there. I hope he beats Oklahoma this week and is just able to say, like, I don't think they're going to beat them.
No, let's give him a pass this week.
I mean, it's not fair that the first game that he's going to have, that's another thing you've got to look at. Is they set this guy up for his first game as the interim head coach to be hosting Oklahoma. What is that?
There is being thrown into the fire, and then there's being thrown into whatever is left of this program. And it's an impossible task to have to somehow pick up everything and be like, well, we got to face Oklahoma this week. I mean, it is truly such a terrible situation to put your interim head coach into. And it makes you raise the question, like, why now? Like, why wasn't it after week 0? Yeah. That was the perfect opportunity.
I mean, it makes sense. He's a legend there. Like, you desperately want it to work, you know?
Yeah, but
it's always a dangerous thing when you hire like a legend of your team to be a
Mickey is another former Nebraska quarterback. And like, I am thrilled for him, and I'm just scared for him because this first game isn't right. And yeah, if you want to do a little week 2 review in the middle of this, Oklahoma's offense, what were they doing against Kent State, where they only had 7 points at the end of the first half, and it came with 19 seconds left? Kent State's offense is dreadful. How the Oklahoma State offense was only able to muster 33 points against Kent State's offense defense is insane to think about. But back to Nebraska, I just hope Mickey Joseph is able to do the unthinkable and get this program back into at least a respectable image before they go into 2023. I don't know how he's going to be able to do it. I again feel terrible for him that this is a situation that he finds himself in at his alma mater, having to build this mess. It's not even building it, it's crafting this entire thing. He has to be the architect as an interim head coach. It's just a tough task, man. It's just not right.
How mad is Mark Whipple right now? That's half the reason he took that job. Thought he'd get it when Frost got canned, right?
It's just a mess there. It's just it's corny and it's got the juice, but it's messy.
Okay, so who, kind of like the LSU situation last year, what coach is going to play this for a big raise? My guess is Chris Kleiman gets that big extension from K-State off Nebraska rumors.
I could see that. Man. I could see that, but I could also see him taking the job.
I almost wonder if this is where Baylor gives Dave Aranda the check. Because I know that there is almost no way that Dave Aranda would ever take that big of a downgrade to go from Baylor to Nebraska. And it's incredible to say that. What a
sentence.
Yeah, I know. It is absolutely incredible that is what I'm saying. But it's the truth. I mean, there aren't a lot of Power 5 jobs that are a lateral move or a downward move to go to Nebraska. And I wonder if this is where Dave Aranda gets the check from Baylor, that extension, to lock him up in Waco. But I don't know of a single Power 5 coach right now at a good school that would have any interest in going to Nebraska.
I mean, I kind of see why. It's this a tradition. I mean, if you're at Baylor, like, you, no matter what They do. They're never going to be Texas. They're never going to be Texas A&M. Like
Right.
you just can't. When you go to Nebraska, it's different because you're the only team in that state. They have tradition. They have all this stuff, and if you can bring them back, then I get it. It's a reason why Texas was like trying to get all these coaches, and Texas A&M got Jimbo. It's just tradition.
But it's the program is in a different spot than any of these programs, though, because when it's almost honestly in a similar spot that Baylor was in in the wake of the whole Art Briles scandal. I mean, it is honestly in a very similar place, not because of the circumstances, but because of where the program stands. I mean,
Is it standing?
It's not standing.
No, I don't know what the state of the program is right now, but I mean, how do you even begin to recruit? What's your pitch?
I mean, I think one
Nebraska.
of the, yeah, one of the differences is there's Baylor, it's incredible that they've built what they have and all that. But there's 32 programs that money wise are exiting the stratosphere right now. And those are the 16 in the Big Ten and the SEC. And it's one of those programs. And, yes, the results on the field have been tough right now, but you look at Matt Campbell at Iowa State and certainly, tradition is one thing, but even if you just look at what those balance sheets are going to look like for the next 10, 20 years, what the fan support is going to look like, there are definitely still some Power 5 programs where Nebraska is a sizable step up, I think.
Yeah, I mean, one name that came to mind, though, and again, the trend here, alma mater, he'd be leaving his alma mater, rather. But the first name that came to mind for me is Jonathan Smith at Oregon State, who was a kind of a legend in his own right at Oregon State. That's kind of a guy I'd look at that could use that Nebraska job as leverage to get more money from his alma mater at Oregon State, maybe. Kind of a dirty game being played there. But, another name that comes to mind is Charles Huff at Marshall. Maybe he's a guy that gets the look at this job. I don't know. Like, who else are some of the guys? Like, I don't know.
If you're Nebraska, do you go for like a big name?
Do they like Luke Fickell? Like, I can't see that happening.
Gruden. No,
Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer's going to be there this Saturday. Make a pitch at him.
I don't know. Like, does Fickell, like, how do they just hand Fickell a blank check? Would Fickell even take that? I mean, he's already going to the Big 12. Like,
I mean,
oh man,
winning at Nebraska is just different than winning at Cincinnati, Kansas State, Baylor. It just is.
Definitely.
It's tough to do, but I mean, if you can do it, it's kind of like going to Miami, winning at Texas, winning at Michigan, USC. It's just, we saw Lincoln Riley leave Oklahoma to go to USC because if you win at USC, it's just different than winning at Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Also, he can go to a grocery store in Los Angeles and not.
That's true. He doesn't.
You think it was like the Beatles coming to America every time he tried to pump gas?
That definitely has something to do with it. But.
Quality of life, man.
Kalen DeBoer was another name that came to mind, depending on what Washington does in his year one. Maybe just straight up goes to Nebraska, but maybe again uses them for leverage.
A lot of coaches are going to get paid because
that's the theme.
Yeah, I mean, when a big job opens up, especially like a blue blood program, because regardless of the state that Nebraska is in today, they're still a blue blood program. I mean, they're up there in all-time wins. They've got those national championships, especially in the 90s. And, it is a big opening, but with the state of the program, I just don't know how many head coaches are going to want to be up to that task, especially ones that are building something, which like Jonathan Smith at Oregon State, I don't know that he would really want to leave that because it seems like he's building something up there.
Yeah.
He is, and he could do whatever he wants there. Again, he's a legend at Oregon State. He's building his own solidified brand of football out there. They're a consistent team that just got 2 very good wins against Boise State and the last second thriller against Fresno State. And they just play elite football in the trenches. Maybe Nebraska flirts with Matt Entz from North Dakota State or Jamie Chadwell from Coastal, but I don't see them going the smaller school route. I think that they're going to go for a big name from a big time program, or from just a straight up, like, I don't know, like Kellen Moore, maybe they try and get. Like, I
Something
don't
like that.
know.
Something like that.
I have no
Nebraska,
clue what they're going to do.
I, as a Cowboys fan, you do not want that, Nebraska. You do not want that offense.
Also, as college football fans, I don't care. It's only right that Kellen Moore is the head coach of Boise State one day, regardless of what's happening with his doing in the NFL. It's only right that fit happens. And I suppose we've dedicated a bit too much Scott Frost and Nebraska speculation at this point. So week 2 review, we did review that. There's a lot more to talk about though, because again, it was our